I have been playing Ghost of Yotei since yesterday, and I'm about a couple of hours in, actually a little more than a couple of hours, about 6 hours in, so still pretty early in the game. And I thought I'll give you my first impressions, and yeah, I will be dropping a full review later on. If that's what you guys want, let me know. But yeah, I do have some thoughts, so let's jump right in. It felt a lot like Ghost of Tsushima. It looked like Sucker Punch has gone and sort of dialed up everything that was good about Ghost of Tsushima and just cranked it up, which is awesome. In terms of the art direction, the world design, the music, everything just feels very much like Ghost of Tsushima, which is a good thing. But also at the same time a little different, because this is a story that's set in about 400 years later, Jin Sakai, right? So the world has evolved a little bit. You can tell. But at the same time, it is still very much, feudal, ancient Japan. But yeah, it's pretty good overall. The world and everything just it feels everything feels a little bit more detailed as well, because Ghost of Tsushima came on PS4, and this game feels very much like a PS5 game, and you can tell, and that's awesome. And it does have like 3 different game modes that you can play in. Performance, which is 60 FPS, and then you got quality mode, which is 30 FPS. But the other option is ray tracing, which still plays at 30 FPS but with ray tracing on, which does look the best in my opinion. I was playing 60 FPS, but then I switched to ray tracing, and then after a while I kind of stuck with that game mode because it just looks so good. And because it's like a third-person action adventure game, you kind of forget about the frame rate after a while, to be honest. You can tell initially, and it's a little bit jarring going from 60 to 30, but after a while you kind of forget that it's 30. It does a pretty good job just maintaining the 30 frame rate pretty consistently. It doesn't drop at all, I don't think. I think even Digital Foundry did a video on this, and they mentioned that it consistently maintains the 30 FPS and 60 FPS frame rate consistently throughout the game. It does a pretty good job at that. So I can see that. So it doesn't really distract you with like high intense moments. So that's good. Speaking of high intense moments, gameplay and combat, this time around you don't have just a katana, you have a lot more weapons in your arsenal. I have at this point only unlocked 2 modes. I've got the katana and a dual katana. I haven't got the other ones yet. So how you play the game when you're in combat is actually you keep switching between the weapons to counteract whoever you're fighting. So in Ghost of Tsushima, you had stances with your katana, which you switch up depending on the type of enemy you are attacking, which was really cool. I really love that combat style. They maintain the same combat concept. However, instead of stances, you're now switching between weapons. Your stances don't really change because you're not really samurai. You don't know that stuff. You're a mercenary. It feels a little different, but at the same time, like the core concept of switching stances kind of still there. Instead of stances, you're now switching weapons to combat different types of, like, say there's a person with a spear, you combat the person with a spear by going dual katana, because that's the most effective against a spear, like that. And if you got a enemy coming with a katana, you switch to a katana, because katana versus katana is the most effective. So stuff like that, you learn that throughout in the game. The game tells you which is the most effective, so you kind of got to remember that and make sure to switch between, so it retains that sort of concept of switching stances, but instead with weapons. So that's kind of how it is. It feels a little weird at first, but then you kind of get used to it. In my opinion, I think Jin Sakai's stance system still the goat, but this still works too. So in terms of story, I mean, obviously I haven't finished the game, so I can't fully comment on this. But so far, without spoilers, the story actually feels pretty good. I have mentioned before that the game follows a revenge story where Atsu, the main character you play as, his her family gets massacred by this group of people called Yotei 6 when she was a child. She was also left for dead, but then she survives, and then she grows up, and then now she's back to this land called Ezo, where she's hunting down the Yotei 6 to get revenge, right? That's essentially the plot, which is very similar to Shadows, as I mentioned in a previous video. However, Yotei has managed to execute it and structure the game, I think, like 10 times, 10, 20 times better than what Shadows managed to do, and it's got no bloat. I've been playing the game in like literally just one area. I haven't actually moved on to other areas in the map yet. And like every second you just go, you have something to get distracted with. It's literally you're coming across something like either like a dueling tree or some sort of a standoff or like a bird or a fox or something, and or like some puzzle area where you do something and then unlock something for you, stuff like that. And it doesn't have a lot of like weapons and armors and like that. It's very selective with what you get. It doesn't have a lot of bloat. And even the side content that you come across them very naturally, very organically. And everything that you do it feels like part of the main story somehow. Like I've just been doing a lot of side quests, not going off to the main story yet, but even the stuff that you do on the side, it feels like it's contributing to the main story's progression somehow. It's really well done. It's really well done. It doesn't feel like a lot of bloat is in there, and everything you do seems to have a purpose, and that's really good. And I think that's also an improvement from Tsushima as well. Tsushima had a problem with you just doing like the same repeated things, like for a lot of the game in terms of side content. They have definitely improved on that, which is awesome. Um, yeah, I think, uh, I think they have done a pretty good job in terms of, in terms of the storytelling portion of it. They have somehow managed to execute that very well, and it doesn't feel like a similar game to Shadows at all, even though it's got the similar story beats with the story itself. You don't really feel that way when you play the game because it feels very different. It feels very organic. It feels well structured, and it's got no bloat. If I had to compare this to Tsushima, I think Tsushima had this one thing that was going on for Tsushima was it's got Jin Sakai, who is a samurai, who now has to be a kind of a shinobi, ninja. So he was conflicted between being a ghost and a samurai. That conflict is the main point that drives the story forward in that game. In a way, that's kind of what elevates that game from like being a really great game to being an awesome game, because you're constantly battling with, like, it's like an inner conflict for Jin Sakai, and it affects everybody around him as well, and it affects you as a player who's playing, and you can kind of like relate to that conflict as well, and it's reflected in the gameplay also. So in that way, Ghost of Tsushima, storytelling wise, was amazing, and it's kind of phenomenal, and that's why it works so well. However, Yotei, still a great game, plays really well. The story is pretty good. It's just missing that element that kind of elevates it. So I wouldn't say in terms of the story it's as good as Tsushima. It's probably a little less, but it doesn't mean that it's a bad game. It's a good game. It plays really well. in gameplay and everything else, they have improved a lot from Tsushima, but it's just missing that, like that, one thing that Tsushima had for some reason. So I feel like that's missing. But other than that, yeah, I haven't encountered any bugs. It's pretty optimized. Well, it's got no issues. I did have like one instant where I was trying to call my horse and it kept running, just like zooming right past me into the distance, and I couldn't like catch him. And every time I keep calling the horse, it just kept going, zooming past me, and it didn't let me get on. So that happened for like a couple of minutes, and then it just fixed itself. Other than that, I haven't encountered any bugs and or like frame rate issues or anything like that. So it's going really well. I will drop full review if that's what you guys want after I finish the game, which will take a while. And I'm gonna be going out today, and that's why I'm dressed like this. So I will be back tomorrow to do the weekend stream, in which we'll probably be playing Call of Duty Black Ops 7. Open beta is on right now, so we'll probably jump in a little bit and play that and see how that is. So tune into that. Yeah, if you enjoy my videos, please drop a like, comment what you think of Ghost of Yotei, and please consider subscribing. I'll see you soon. Bye bye.